Brandt Davis as our presenter. We also have Robert Waite on the technical side standing by. I just want to start off with a couple of housekeeping notes. There's a question mark and there's a hand next to your name on the webinar pane. If you should have any questions throughout the presentation, we just encourage you to go ahead and click on that question mark button. A dialog box will open up where you can key in your question, and at the end of the presentation, we're going to read off the questions so that both Brandt and Robert can answer them. And with that said, I'm going to go ahead and let Brandt get started. Thank you so much, Brandt.
Sure. Thank you, Adrian, for the introduction. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. My name is Brandt Davis. I'm our channel sales executive and lead contact here at SWK for our time and billing exact product, or we call Tbx. And also helping me out later in our call today is going to be Robert Waite, who is our lead developer for the Tbx program. So he's the brains behind the operation, and will be able to help me answer some of the more technical questions that you might have towards the end. I'm going to start today with just kind of a brief overview of our Tbx product and kind of the rationale and reasoning behind it, and then just go ahead into our demo instance and just show you some of the main highlights and features of the program that can really help your business and give you a smoother and better solution for your time and billing needs. And then, like Adrian said, just some time at the end for some Q&A. So to start off, what is Tbx? So some of you might be familiar with a suite of products that we have between time and billing professional, and our timekeeper products that are used for both time tracking and then time billing to create invoices and go ahead and collect your money from your clients for the hard work you're putting in for them. The impetus behind the Tbx program was some of those programs had been getting a little long in the tooth there, and we want to come up with a solution that was not only updated to a better and more modern computer programming language for smoother transitions and a smoother user experience, but also we wanted to make something that would be a comprehensive solution. So instead of needing to run separate programs for billing and time tracking, we'd be able to put everything all under one roof so that we could make it a full and comprehensive solution to have a one-stop shop to do everything that you need for your time entry and billing needs. We have a wide range of clients. This product can be used in any industry. We currently are seeing a lot of growth with CPA firms, legal firms, some manufacturing, anywhere that you see someone that has a lot of remote employees or employees that are working on multiple different projects for your customers. Tbx is a very good fit to be able to have them enter in their time and be able to then easily bill it out. We do have some quick functions here that I just have on this slide here. It's a standalone application that runs separate from your ERP system, which is a nice benefit as well because it allows you to have any employee anywhere have access to the program either by a desktop application or a browser-based interface to enter in time, but at the same time be cognizant of the fact that not employees need access to your ERP system. So for basic end users, all they have is the visibility into the Tbx program and their time entry screens. But the administrators and managers that need to be able to link it to the ERPs can use it directly and have a lot more added functionality. It's got a very easy-to-use interface, which I'm going to go ahead and show you a little bit more after this couple more slides here, that allow for a lot of easy and various methods for time entry. One of the big things that we wanted to emphasize with this program was flexibility that we're going to show a little bit later. We understand that every employee kind of works in different ways and has different things that can make them more or less effective at their job. So the name of our game is really just to make it a very friendly interface that everyone can use their own way to get the most usage out of it, as well as efficiency. It links directly currently with the Sage 100 platform through a back-end database, so even though it is a standalone application, it does have the functionality to report directly with and communicate directly with your Sage 100 ERP. And one thing that we're going to touch on as well, it really is a key feature of Time Billing Exact, is our robust reporting and analysis functionalities. Business intelligence obviously drives a lot of what we do with companies these days. Make sure we're maximizing our work effort to make sure we're getting all the data and being able to capture it. Tbx has a very robust engine built into it based off Excel pivot tables as well as just general reporting capabilities to run a number of reports of it. And again, we understand that different people in every organization have different data that they're concerned about. So instead of making everyone look at the same data and the same information, it allows a lot of flexibility for individual employees or managers or be able to see and focus in on the data that's really important to them out of your time and billing needs. Here's just a quick screenshot of our basic user interface. You can see it's a nice laid out grid system. We're going to go ahead into more depth in that when I get into demonstrating a couple of some of the main features of the product. And then finally, after the demo, if you have any questions or if anyone's going to want to see a more in-depth full demo of the product, my contact information, I'll put this back on the screen at the end, but I'm sure we can also make it available to please reach out to me directly for any related questions to the product, product demos or pricing. I'm available. Based in Chicago, so I'm in the Central Time Zone, so pretty friendly to anyone across the country. Generally, if you're in the office, I'm in the office and very accessible and ready to help out in any way I can. I'm going to close this screen here and switch over to our demo instance here and get it fired up. So you can see, like I said before, Tbx is a standalone desktop application, so it's going to be sitting on anyone's main Windows or main Windows screen, as well as, like I said, an optional web browser that's going to share the same interface that you're going to go ahead and see when we get this fired up here. All right, so what we have logged in here, we've signed in as one of our administrators, again, just so we can kind of show you all the main functionality from a high-level standpoint of what our administrators and what the program can really do to help your company enter in their time and track it and be able to bill it out to customers. You'll see here on this left-hand side is just our main navigation screen where you can go through the various functionalities from looking at and entering in time through managerial time approval processes, billing, all the way down to security systems and configuration and our reporting tools as well. So the first thing I really just wanted to take some time to show, and I mentioned before that flexibility is a big piece of what we're doing. So that starts here with our time entry screen. What you see here is our My Timesheet, and what this is just reflecting, this is going to show any time that someone's entered into the system when they're keeping track of their time and different projects. It all gets laid out on this screen here so that you can see what you've done, take a look at the entries, and also be able to go in and take care of any edits or changes that might need to be made along the way. In this friendly grid system, you'll see a lot of these buttons here, the blank sheet of paper, X's and O's, our save button with the 3.5-inch floppy. We made it very friendly so that it looks a lot like the programs you're often using in your day-to-day usage, your Microsoft Office with a blank sheet of paper, paperclip functions for attachments, and my personal favorite, the 3.5-inch floppy disk. My brother actually is going off to college this week and has never seen or know what a 3.5-inch floppy disk means, but he knows it saves a piece of data. So it's very familiar, very nice layout, easy to look at and easy to navigate your way around. So what I want to focus on here is we have a few different ways that an employee can enter in time. Like I said, everyone has their own ways of doing it, has their own style, and ways to make them more efficient. So we're going to go through a few different ways that any employee or manager can go ahead and enter in their time. So the easiest way and most basic way here is to just click on our new entry here and bring up a new time entry screen. For those of you either using our classic time and billing products or using other products to do your time and billing along with your Sage 100, you can see some pretty familiar terms here. You have your engagements, clients and work codes, and again, these things are drawn directly from your Sage 100 system. As part of our implementation process, we're going to bring all that information over into the Tbx platform, again, to really set you up with a plug-and-play turnkey solution to be able to get right to work with entering in your time. So you can see we have just easy drop-downs. You can see all of our client list, and you can get started picking any clients, engagements, work codes. But one feature that we really like to highlight that we're very proud of and really makes things a lot easier is this menu here called Project Task. And what Project Task does is it is able to break up your individual engagements or work codes into smaller pieces. So if you have a project, say, that has 4 different stages of it that people might be logging time against. You can set these up as individual project tasks and be able to avoid a lot of rekeying information and duplication of information. Because what's nice about these is they're pre-programmed in. All we need to do is select a task, and it's going to auto-populate to its assigned engagements, clients, work codes, and rates. So all you really need to do at that point is go ahead, enter in an amount of hours that you worked on it, 4 hours, and you can have any extra descriptions here. S10 was great today. You can add any file attachments if you have any receipts, or if you need to attach proposals or any kind of additional documentation to a specific time entry. You can come in here, just click our Save button. As you see, you can come in here, and we have a brand new time entry on our sheet. Again, like I said, this is time that hasn't yet been approved. So if you sit there and realize, oh, I typed in 4 hours, but I needed to do 5 hours. It's a very easy fix. You can just come in, adjust your entries, save it out again, and now you can see we have our 5 hours in here instead of 4. Another way on this screen to enter in time, you can use these top bars up here, and we can do something very similar. We can just click on our project task, click a drop down here, pick another task that we worked on today. I'll slide over, enter in that we did an hour and a half, click Save, and again, we're going to have another entry into our system. One thing that's a nice feature as well, with both flexibility and a control feature, you notice I've entered in an hour and a half. We have the ability to, in Tbx, adjust a lot of the settings that are in the system. One question that we frequently get is in terms of increments of time. Some companies, if you like to bill or can only bill in half-hour increments or quarter-hour increments or even just full hours, so you have the ability in the system to set parameters for your employees to make sure that they're staying kind of in the sandbox, I like to say, that you need to corral them in. So the nice feature about it is we have the ability, without needing to do any special custom coding or anything like that, to be able to set those parameters so that you don't have someone entering in time down to the minute or in 0.27 increments of an hour of time to make sure that you're billing out and invoicing your customers the way that you prefer, the way that you like to, without having your employees be able to have to go back and make a bunch of edits or changes along with those entries. So the next way to enter time, which in my opinion is probably the quickest and most efficient way to do it, is this My Tasks tab right here. And what this allows us to do is it allows us to see all of the assigned tasks. In this case, for Rhonda Rollister, here's all the tasks that she is aligned and able to enter time against. And as you can see here, it'll auto-populate again the engagements or customer columns. And then right here, we just have our easy entry dates. So all that needs to be done here is all we need to do is click a cell for a specific task, enter in time against it, 2 hours here, and we can do another 2 hours here on a retainer project. You can enter in just by clicking on a cell, entering a time, and clicking Tab or Enter, and save against it. And we very easily have an updated timesheet. This is a great feature, especially if you have any employees that are working on multiple projects at the same time, or if they have multiple different things that they're bouncing around either during a single day, or as you can see here through a week view. If they've got a lot of different things they're working on, it makes it a very quick and easy way for them to enter in a lot of information and a lot of data very quickly and not have to go through a lot of clicks or a lot of keystrokes. They can get their time in there in a very efficient manner and be able to go on with their day and not have to spend a lot of time doing it. Especially if you have employees like myself that sometimes will put some of these things off till the end of the week, and you have someone at 4:30 on Friday afternoon that needs to get all their time entered and only has a few minutes to do it. It's a quick way to just blow through it pretty quickly and have everything compartmentalized and entered in where it needs to be for an easy approval section by a manager later on. And finally, the third way we can go ahead and enter time here is through our My Schedule feature. And this looks very reminiscent of Microsoft Office, Microsoft Outlook. Again, it's a very familiar screen, very easy to use, and a pretty efficient way for someone to go ahead and enter in time. all we need to do with this calendar layout, I'll come down here to some time that someone's actually doing some work, and all you need to do is you can click and drag and highlight an amount of time. Met with you can just drag and drop amount of time, write yourself a quick note of what you're doing and blocking out that schedule. Then you can come in here, just open up an appointment, and then again, just assign it to the work code or task that they were performing. It's going to auto-populate everything in. As you can see, it's already got our hours set in here because we already dragged it out on our calendar. Create a time entry and save it out, and then that's going to go ahead and enter that into the system for you again so that you can see that time in here. Again, this is very helpful if you have someone that lives out of their calendar or, again, is bouncing around between different blocks of time, not really sitting still and doing things necessarily all at one time. If they're doing an hour or two here and there or even spread out through an individual day, it's a nice way to block out that time, give you some reminders, and be able to set up some time and organize your time very quickly to go ahead and work through your time entries. So those are our three main ways of entering time into the system. The next thing I want to show you here is the My Time History tab. And so again, this is a laundry list of just all the time that Rhonda Rollister here has entered into the system that has been approved out and potentially billed out. And I'm going to use this screen because, again, I really want to highlight the flexibility and ease of use of our user interface here. And this screen is a really good way to do it. You've seen the very similar grid system all the way through, and all our screens through approval, billing process, work in progress tabs are going to have a very similar layout to this. And the nice thing about this grid function is you're able to manipulate it to make it as visually appealing as you want it to be, allowing you to be more flexible. These cells are easily adjusted. You can move them back and forth just like on an Excel spreadsheet. And we could sit here and see that we have a lot of different columns. And these columns are very easy to add and manipulate. So right here, for example, if you have an employee that really doesn't need or want to see where the source of it is, what kind of status that time is in, any of these columns can be dragged and dropped and removed from view. So again, if you have someone that needs to see certain information versus others, you can either remove or add different amounts of data to your system so that if you have someone that only needs to see a couple specific pieces of information here in terms of hours in a task, if they're not really interested in seeing the rate, they can remove a lot of the clutter from their screen. And adding columns in, finding more data, is as easy as right-clicking on this here, going to our column chooser. I'll move this up here. And as you can see, we have a lot of different ways that you can partition the data out and reflect the data from different time entries so that anyone that's using the program can have the most accurate and relevant data to them. So if we just want to go ahead and put source back in here, again, we can just drag and drop it in there, as well as the flexibility to move the columns around. If, for example, I want to see right after my client, I want to see the description of what I'm doing before I even look at an engagement column, you can go ahead and move those things around and make it very easy, very visually appealing. Also, with our taskbar here, we have ways that you can easily search and filter data. As you can see, my scroll bar is pretty small here. We've got a lot of data entered in from demos past here, and so a question we often get is, well, wow, you could end up with hundreds or thousands of lines even of time history or things like that entered in, and how do we just make that so that we're not looking at such an intimidating list of features here? So down here we have three different ways that you can sort, filter, and search for information. The first one I'm going to show is our Find panel. This is very similar to your Control F function on a web browser, an Adobe PDF, etc., where all you need to do is just type in any text, hit enter, and as you can see, I typed in demo. And what it's going to do is it's going to just highlight anywhere that it sees that combination of letters. So you can see it already made that scroll bar a little bit bigger, so it already filtered out a lot of information for us to give us a more consolidated view. You can sit here and say, hey, well, that's still a lot more than I want to look at. So what we can do here, just for real estate's sake, I'll move that out of here, we have our auto filter row. And again, this inserts a blank row similar to that first My Timesheet screen that we saw. And again, this is where you can work with our drop-down menus. You can just click on a cell, and we can pick a specific task here. As you can see, we filtered all this information down to just a handful of options here. And if I want to go even further down and see not only that engagement, but a specific customer. Again, with just a few clicks, you can take a lot of data and bring it down into a more manageable state. So I'll go ahead and clear these out. And then the last way we could sort the data, which again I feel is probably the easiest and most efficient to use, if you hover over any of our columns here, you can see the little filter funnel that again you see in a lot of programs that everyone's very used to and familiar with. And you can just really quickly use these funnels to go ahead and find the data you need and hone in on multiple different columns and everything like that to be able to sit there and very easily access a more manageable, viewable amount of data in front of you. Go ahead and clear this out. Some of the other basic functions here that an administrator has the ability to take a look at and work with are just basic time approvals here. In a screen like this, this is just showing all the time that Rhonda has the ability to enter. And it's a very simple process. All you need to do is click a single record or click a record, use your shift key and scroll up and down, click approve, and it'll go ahead and turn that into Wipp for us. So, and very similarly with our billing process, you can just come in here to Wipp, select a handful of items, and just click the bill button, and they go into a billing entry ID that you can then go create your invoices off of. So with a few quick clicks or a click and drag here and there, you can really get a lot of work done in a short amount of time, which again, time is money for all of us. And so the ability to move through the system very quickly and easily is something that is very much a benefit of TBX, both for you, for your company, and for your customers. You can get through this data quicker, more efficiently, and be able to just focus on getting those invoices out and collecting your money from your customers here. I mentioned earlier the ability to interface directly with the Sage 100 ERP system, and we can show that here is in the billing entry. So even though it's a standalone application, and even though it's something that that isn't directly internalized within the Sage 100 program, it does have that linked up very easily when all you need to do, and the best example here is with billing. All we need to do is highlight a billing ID, create an invoice, and as you can see, it'll auto-populate and auto-generate the next available invoice number in your Sage 100 system. So even though it's a separate application, it's communicating in real time with your ERP. Again, so that you don't have to go back and forth or do any kind of double entry or manually keying in any kind of data. It can go ahead and just take care of that for you. So now you can go into your Sage system and find that invoice and manage it the same as you would in any previous applications or time billing applications you're using. The TBX program also allows a high level of control, of administrative control for our end users. As you can see here on our navigation screen, if I logged in as a basic user, the only screen I would have access to would be this home screen. So if I'm out in the field and working on, and I'm a consultant billing out hours for doing on-site visits and work for a customer, and I don't need to have access to be able to do any kind of approval or billing, or invoices really don't matter to what my active position and what my active role is. All I'm going to see here is my timesheet and these various ways to enter in time that I showed you earlier. You're not going to have access to any of these other features and functions here, and that's a nice measure of control. It allows you the peace of mind to know that your employees have access to specific things that you want them to have access for. They're not really allowed to wander anywhere else in the program and make any, and even give them a possibility or a chance to make any mistakes or wreak havoc somewhere else that someone might need to spend time undoing or going through. our configuration screen, you can come in here and show really quickly, just giving an idea that if someone is signed in as a basic user, you can allow permissions for that type of user. And then further down, going in and seeing all of your employees, your users, and seeing what category they fall under and what permissions they're allowed to do. So again, you have a high level of control and visibility from an administrative standpoint to make sure that employees are only seeing what they're supposed to be seeing and using what they're supposed to be using. The last piece I really wanted to have touched on today with the Tbx program, again, that's important to every customer out there, and really a crucial feature to the Tbx program is our advanced reporting capabilities and business intelligence tools to really allow you to focus in on our data. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn it over to Robert, who is the genius behind these reporting capabilities, to kind of go a little bit more in depth and really show you the horsepower behind this, to show you what the reporting capabilities and features can do for you and your company. So Robert, I'm going to go ahead and give you control of my mouse here. And you know,
all right, I think you may have switched over to my screen. Do you want to just keep yourself as the presenter and just give me control over the mouse?
I think I did that, but let me see.
Okay, we're back in. Okay, very good.
Okay, can you move the mouse now, Robert?
I have control.
Awesome.
All right, so as Brandt had mentioned, there's a plethora of reporting capabilities in Tbx, and where we really like to focus in on is the pivot tables. And if you're familiar with Excel pivot tables, you're going to be right at home with these tables here. We have them throughout the system, and we also give you the ability to create custom pivot tables as well. One of them is on your home screen, so it's called My Time Summary, and I'll just give it a moment for it to load up. And as you can see here, we have a way of dragging and dropping columns in to various different places. So we can drag source down over to the rows area, and we could see the total amount of Wipp that this employee currently has, and any new transactions as well that are gone through the system. If we had some build history, we'd see that in there as well. We'd be able to take and split things out by year. We only have information for 2015 in here, but if we split out by month, we can see additional months. So now we have all of our time split out by month. We can view this differently, such as over here in the rows, here's the months, and if we had additional years, say 2014 and 13 in there, they would separate into their own different columns. So we're currently looking at this relative to the logged in employees' time, and giving them the ability to get in and see this information. If you don't want your employees to see profitability in there, you remove that from the pivot tables on your configuration. So that's one place where we have a pivot table. We have, say you're a manager and you want to go in and drill into other employees. You have the same pivot table relative to time analysis, and you can get a tremendous amount of insight just by virtue of dragging and dropping a couple columns into places. Everywhere you see a grid within the system, you have the ability to export to Excel very quickly and easily. So right here is right-click and an export to XLS file format, and it's what you see is what you get sort of format. So all your groupings that you have in here. We don't actually have Excel installed on this instance, so it's difficult to show you the actual export. But if you've spent some time working on groupings and some hierarchies in there, those are going to display as you see them on the screen. Another area we have another pivot table is the client. So now we're looking at time via a completely different perspective relative to a client, and we can say get in here and let's find a client that has some time entries in there. All right, so we can see that by employee engagement work code, if we don't like work code there, we can drag it up there, and we can see things pivoted out in various different ways. Again, if you've used pivot tables before, you're going to be right at home. You have pivot tables relative to the project. You also have pivot tables relative to work codes. So, for example, if you had work codes for PTO and so forth, and you want to see, or sick time perhaps, and you want to do a little bit of analysis as to who's the employee that's clocked the most amount of sick time and be able to report on that, you're able to do so. Another area where we have a nice pivot table is the Wipp Analysis. In the Wipp Analysis, we have everything broken out into buckets so that you have all of your Wipp aged appropriately. Those of you coming off of our classic product are familiar with these types of reports, but they're on a hard-coded crystal report. There isn't much you can do beyond that, but here you have a pivot table. So if I wanted to get in and drill in and see, okay, I don't want to see by client, I want to see by employee, I can just drag client out of the rows area and replace it with employee. If I wanted to get down and see the nitty-gritty detail of stuff, I can bring in transaction date and the description, collapse that out. So if I'm wondering, okay, well, what is this 90 days over here, I can cross-tabulate and find where that sum is coming from, and it's these transactions here. So you have a wealth of information at your fingertips that starts off at a nice, concise, simple report, and you could get in and get as granular as you need from there. There is a way that you can actually create your custom pivot tables as well. So we can get into the analysis tab here and say I wanted to get a report on, say, everything for Q1 of 2015. I can set something up in here. It's a little bit of work up front, but once you've got the work done, it's very easy. You're able to quickly and easily get this onto a piece of paper if you need it onto a piece of paper, or get it into an Excel spreadsheet if need be. Did I lose you guys? Nope. Cancel that. Hey Brandt, it seems like the session has locked up. Do you have control?
Yeah, I have control here. Let me go back into the demo instance here.
Okay. I think I might have hit the wrong X and may have closed out of the remote desktop session.
Okay. I think we're back. Robert, you set control?
Let's see here. I do not have control.
Okay. Let me go ahead. All right, try it now.
Okay. I have control. Okay. So once you've arranged your pivot table the way you like it, you come in and it's exactly the way that you've left it. And then you could create as many of these as possible, as you possibly might need. And you're not limited to just time detail. You can pivot off of schedule detail, you could pivot off of employee detail, whatever entity is within the TBX system, you're able to generate a pivot off of. Another area of reporting is our reports menu here. This is very much equivalent to what you guys are familiar with Crystal reports. However, there's some nice features in here that I think go well beyond what you're able to do with Crystal reports. One of the things that I know I contend with on a regular basis is in order to get a custom report of any sort, you need to get in and key in parameters of, and there's a lot of keystrokes that go into getting a specific report. Well, with TBX, you have this option of creating an is in place report. And let's find a good example here. Let's do our demo employee report. This is set up as an in-place report. And what that means is they place a button right on the user interface for you so that you can access that report. So if we go back to our main menu and we go into our employee and we double-click on a employee and we hit this drop-down, we're going to see whatever reports are employee reports and are able to report directly from here. So if we do our demo 1 report, we can see that, hey, it's a super simple report. We probably did this with Report Designer Wizard. What is also nice is you don't have to do a single employee as well. Say if I filtered down to a short list and I wanted to get a report of these 4 employees, or let's do these 4 employees, and I do the drop down, it's now going to have a report with just those employees selected. So there is a designer along with TBX, and let's go and show you how quickly and easily it is to you're able to create a report. So let's do a new report, and we'll create engagements this time, or we'll call it projects. We need to specify a data type, and that data type is project. Normally it's called a engagement, but we do have the ability to alias entities within the system. We have the ability to just create a standard report, which is just on a piece of paper. We also have the ability to get in and define label templates. If you're familiar with your Avery label templates and you want to get some customer mailing labels out, you can use the label template wizard to generate a report like that. So we're going to go through and create a from scratch report. Let's see, let's throw in our actual time. We want our backlog number in there. Let's bring our client information in there. Engagement description. I have a feeling the client's going to come here and show you how to change that real quick. But we go through, do we want any level of grouping? Let's say we'll group by client. So we'll be grouping all clients together. So let me make sure that gets over. There we go. Client grouping, and then that. Then it's going to ask, well, what do we want in terms of sum on our backlog amount. And let's generate a tabular report, put it into landscape. And we'll call this project list. Then what pops up is the actual designer. So it's gone through and it's found the best way to organize all of this, and it's built up this table here. And so we have a nice starting point. We can get in and tweak things out. So if we didn't like the red fonts in here, we can go into our properties and say, I don't like that maroon. I want to have our company colors in here. There's no shortage of flexibility in terms of the reports. Here are all the objects that you're able to get in there. You could get pretty charts, gauges, spark lines, pivot tables you can get in there. Let me pan down just a little bit and we'll see a few more. Pivot grids, subreports. Very powerful reporting engine, very similar to what Crystal can do. Generally, if Crystal can do it, this report designer can do it. We get a lot of questions. Can our Crystal reports transfer over? They do need to be rekeyed or recreated. All right, so we can save this and we can have a look at what this report does. And I'm going to close out. All right, so we got our new list here. And again, we want to do this as an in-place report so that we don't have to come in here, futz with our parameters, things nice and neatly attached to the user interface. And just a caveat, you do need to close out of the application before that is in place report will take effect. All right, so now if we go to our project, say we wanted to filter down on a subset of projects. We used the filters that Brandt had mentioned there before, and we just wanted to get this list of projects. When we drop our show and reports, we're going to have our projects report, and it's only going to report on what we've actually selected. And the client information did come in. We could spend a lot of time tweaking things up and laying things out a lot better. But there it goes to show you that you can get a report very quickly and easily out of this system. Another area where reporting really shines is you don't necessarily have to get something onto a piece of paper to qualify as a report. These grids in of themselves act as very satisfactory reports. So down here at the bottom, you're going to find throughout the system, you're going to have these summation buttons. By default, these sums are not shown in there. You can very quickly and easily just right-click there, add a sum, Here we're showing a count, and in some places you can say, okay, I want to get the max value. And in some use cases that'll make more sense. It doesn't make much sense at this point in time, but you just know that you do have that as an operand. And this footer bar down here at the bottom is a very common feature of TBX, and you're going to see it in various different places. And one of the places where it really does shine is getting a backlog report out of the system. Say you want to get a total amount of time out of the system. You don't necessarily need to get this onto a piece of paper in order for it to be a very powerful report for you. What you do, virtually wherever you have a grid, you also have a print functions where you could print directly what is on the screen. So as you can see, we have a printout of the list we've just created. So using those filter parameters that filtering tools that Brandt had shown you earlier, you can get a very quick ad hoc report together very quickly and easily without even touching the nitty-gritties of this report designer down here at the bottom. Let's say you wanted to get some information on a column that's related to a property of engagement. Let's say, for example, we wanted to go into our column chooser. We have all of these direct properties related to the engagement or project itself. But let's say we wanted to get some information, say, off of the engagement partner, and we wanted to get a property on there to indicate, let's see what we have here, what department the engagement partner works on. So this is not a direct property of the engagement, it's a property of the employee record that is attached to the engagement. So we have the ability to get in there without having to finagle with any joins. If you're familiar with report writing, you're probably familiar with the headache of needing to be aware of joins and links, and if you don't get your links right, things don't work quite right. You're limited to one left outer join and all of this other technical stuff that could potentially go wrong. We take away all of that headache from you, and you're able to get that detail in there directly off of the user interface. So we can drag that department in there, and we don't really have our departments defined up all that well in our demo company, but you can see that, hey, you could get properties within your grids without having it directly relate to the property. I hope that makes sense.
Great. Well, thank you, Robert. I appreciate you kind of going a little bit more in depth. Again, I just want to have everyone on the call be able to see the robust business intelligence capabilities of this. It really solves a lot of problems and is a big feature for a lot of customers because, again, we all have different numbers we need to see and need to crunch, and we just want to make this program, as we saw from most of this, call today, just as flexible and easy to use as possible. We have about 10 minutes left, so I wanted to make sure we have some time for Q&A. So Adrian, I don't know if you want to take over now. We can go ahead and do some Q&A.
That would be great. Thank you so much, you guys, for that informative presentation. I'm going to launch some polls as we're announcing the questions, so just bear with me here. If I could just ask the audience, are you interested in learning more about time and billing? If you could just take a minute to answer that question, I will go ahead and announce the questions here. So we have quite a few. Thank you so much, Judy, for your first question here. Brandt and Robert, for the hours, can you enter a starting time and then an ending time so it figures out the total amount of time worked on it that day?
That is where your schedule entry comes into play. So when you create your schedule appointments, that takes into account a begin time and an end time. So you are able to derive that if you're using schedule entry as your point of time entry. What's nice about schedule entry, and I use it a lot myself for keying in my time, because very often I'll get importuned with a phone call, and I need to jump on that call, and then I'm back to project A, and then I need to jump onto project C, and then to B, and then back to project A. I may have 4 or 5 different appointment records for project A, for example. What's nice about calendar entry is at the end of the day, it adds all of that time into a single time entry record for me at the end. So I know prior to writing Tbx, I've needed to keep track of all of that stuff in an Excel spreadsheet or notepads or and stuff like that. And it's always been a challenge until I started using calendar entry with Tbx.
And then, not sure how to ask this question. To get year-to-date totals, could we take some of the tabs and drop them down to a sheet but not allow the employee access to that information? So to get to year-to-date totals, could we take some of the tabs and drop them down to a sheet but not allow the employee access to that information? This question may require a phone call. Thank you, Judy. We will make an attempt to answer the question.
Yeah, I would imagine that we would be able to set something up in the security roles and hide information. There is a very rich feature set in terms of being able to hide information from a specific user. What you also can do is you can create a view that only specific people are able to see. So it's really just a matter of getting into the security model and hiding what information you do not want your end users to see, and then apply it to a specific role or a group of people that specifically needs to see that information.
And another question from Judy, thank you. If we customize the setup, would this be lost when an upgrade is done?
No. The customizations or the configuration information that you put into the system is stored in the database. I'm going to say 95% no. There will always be cases where we've changed the schema of things, and maybe 1 out of 20 of your customizations might need to be redone, but the majority of your customizations will carry over from version to version.
And for the billing process, could the hours be grouped by work code or service type? Example, invoice for audit work, but want to hold tax work.
Yes. So like I illustrated in the beginning with a lot of the sorting features, That's where those, especially the little funnel icon, it comes in very handy because you can filter it down by client, or like you mentioned, by work code. So you're only looking at a specific list of information when you're going in and billing. So if you wanted to bill by one work code at a time or one customer at a time, you can funnel down and filter to that data, and then just select those specific records to be able to go ahead and bill those and invoice those specific records.
And are the display names what is in the system, or we would set them up and name them what we want?
You can get in and alias any property to whatever you'd like. So there is a back-end tool called the Model Editor. You could get in there and say, okay, well, I don't like the word engagement. I really want to use projects as the name because that's what we use internally. In terms of the demo that you just saw, we've already had the engagements aliased. You could pretty much get in there and alias any other property in the system as well. So control over what you alias properties is most certainly there.
And Carlton, thank you for your question. If we have decades of T&B history, how transferable is it into your program?
It is one of the things that we really take pride on with Tbx is its business intelligence technologies. We most certainly want your historical information to be present in Tbx. So by out of the box, if you are coming off of one of our classic products, your historical data is going to be imported in unless you explicitly say we don't want it. And I don't know any reason why anybody would not want their historical data to be imported over. It's just a gold mine of information in there, and when you are able to point these business intelligence tools to them, you're just going to be able to see aspects of your business that you were not able to visualize before.
And an additional item, Robert, is he's using Mass 90 time and billing already. Mm-hmm. So I think he's asking if that will automatically transfer over since they're already on Mass 90 time and billing?
Yes, it does. It does migrate over. So we have a migration path for time and billing standard, time and billing professional, and timekeeper. So if you're on any one of those products, your historical data comes over along with your current Wipp, your active engagements, your historical engagements. We do import that data.
And thank you again, Judy, for this additional question. We currently print fee analysis reports and productivity reports. Are these already set up, or would we have to create them? If
you noticed within the reports menu, there was a utilization report. We've spent a lot of time on building that report. So you have a pivot table in along with that utilization report so that you can get into the granular details. But we're in there calculating your productive time, productive utilization, your build utilization. So we factor out the zero build time, and we give you a percentage of what your build. And we also factor in utilization based off of what's actually invoiced. So you may get a build utilization early on that indicates high, but you end up writing a bunch of stuff off, and then that inevitably lowers the invoiced utilization. And internally, we actually run our compensation packages off of that invoiced utilization. So we do have some pretty strong utilization and productivity reports in the system, and with those pivot tables, again, you're going to be able to get in and see your productivity in ways that you have not been able to with the classic product.
And Albert, thank you for your question. How well will this work for a temporary employment agency that places people to clients and they pay the temp and bill the client?
I'm going to need more information on that. That might be a separate call. But off the top of my head, essentially you would, I believe you would be setting that employee up as a 1099 and then coordinating time as normal, and then you would essentially cut a check for that 1099 employee. I'm not sure if I answered that correctly. I think that would be a better question for a separate phone conversation.
Perfect. And we'll get back to you, Albert, specifically addressing your question, as that question will be aligned to you on the report. So just stand by for that. And then Albert does have an additional question, Robert and Brandt. And what accounting system will this link to?
At this point in time, we're targeting Sage 100. At this point in time, we have designed the product to be ERP agnostic, so once we gain traction on the Sage 100 group, we will be targeting platforms such as X3, Sage 500, Sage 300. We're most likely going to be targeting QuickBooks, Accu, Matica. Those are a few ERP systems that we want to target into the future.
And just to be clear, we have some questions here about Mass 90, Robert. Sage 100 is just a name change from Mass 90. So if you're running Mass 90 or you've heard of Mass 90, Sage 100 and Mass 90 are the same product.
That is correct. Sage 90, Mass 90, Mass 200, and Sage 100 are directly synonymous. The only difference is Mass 90 is more so smaller operations, where Mass 200 and is more geared towards larger networks, but nonetheless the underlying mechanics of the software is exactly the same across that. And if you're coming off of Mass 90 or 200 or on it right now, we're going to be able to target your platform. Now, we do support Sage 4.5 and above, so if you are on a previous version, we would be looking to upgrade your system to the latest release of Sage 100. So just keep that in mind as well.
And let's see, how does this information load into our Mass 90 general ledger? Thank you, Carlton.
There's predominantly when we send the ERP information, we're sending directly to either AR invoice data entry or AP invoice data entry, sales order invoice data entry, and we also target general ledger directly for any Wipp that needs to be posted to GL. So targeting those systems, the ERP is going to be handling the general ledger transactions. Now, that being said, you still have granular control over what general ledger accounts are going to be used for the revenue accounts relative to your work codes and so forth, as well as your expense reimbursements. So in terms of general ledger transactions, your ERP pretty much predominantly takes the reign unless you're posting Wipp to GL, where we would directly send general ledger transactions directly to the general ledger module itself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense to me. Carlton, if you need any more information on that, feel free to ask another question, or Brandt will get back in touch with you and explain further. And then, Robert, we have an additional item to the previous question about the temporary employment agency.
Mm-hmm.
Albert is saying that the temporary employee is a W-2 employee. Does that make any difference in your ability to answer that question, or should we take that one offline?
I think we need to have a discovery call in order to answer that question.
Perfect. And then we have one last question from Judy. Thank you, Judy. We use the cache receipts feature in Sage 100 currently.
Mm-hmm.
Does this have the cache receipts entry in it, or do we have to use something else?
You're going to use the stock Sage 100 cache receipts entry. So we push the invoice into the ERP system, and you're going to do the cache receipts relative to the invoice, AR invoice entry. So once you do post the cache receipts, Tbx does recognize that as a cache receipt, and it does report on it within Tbx. But you don't do the cache receipt relative to Tbx. You do the cache receipt relative to your current ERP system.
And I'm not seeing any other questions. We are 6 minutes over the hour. We really appreciate everybody spending this hour with us. We know how hard time is to come by. And I just wanted to point out to the presenters, you have 86% of the folks on the line, 100% answered the poll, who are interested in learning more. So fantastic presentation. That kind of speaks for itself, and I just really appreciate you two spending time with us to educate us more about your time and billing application. We did record this presentation, and we will be sending the recording out in a follow-up email along with Brandt's contact information. So you will have that easily accessible to reach out to Brandt, but I'm sure Brandt will be following up with each of you on the phone. And Brandt and Robert, would you like to end this with any closing comments?
Well, I just want to thank everyone for your time. We're very excited about our product, and we think it can help solve a lot of problems for a lot of our customers. And so please feel free to ask any questions we have, and we're going to get you taken care of as quickly as possible.
Thank you both. Everybody have a wonderful day. Take care.
Thank you very much, everybody.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.